Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to look at the Leviton smart switch to try to automate my Christmas lights on my home. The purpose of this is just to go over a single pole wiring application for just a single smart switch. In this case, just as a heads up, it's probably going to be pretty shaky because I'm just using my cell phone and I don't have any sort of production video equipment. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll run on over to our existing switch that we're using today. Alright, so here's our switch, which is conveniently located in this very poorly lit closet. So we'll unscrew the screws to the plate here. Pull this off. Now, what you don't want to do is touch these two poles on the side here, which you probably can't see in the video too well. But what I do have here is I have this Fluke voltage finder. I'll put a picture inside of the YouTube video here. All you have to do is touch the side of the poles here, and you can see that there's active current flowing through this switch. So what we need to do is we need to first run down to the breaker panel and flip off the breaker so we don't electrocute ourselves. Alright, here's my panel here. This is going to be the main, which we don't want to flip off because that will turn off everything in our home. So what we're going to do is we're going to read on the side here, and bam, there are my Christmas lights. So what I'm going to do is flip this breaker to the off position there, and then we'll go run back up to the outlet or the switch, use our little voltage tester and see if that actually did turn off electricity to that switch. Alright, so take our voltage tester, if we hold this against the switch here, we can now see that there's no electricity running this switch. So now we can take this switch out here. So we'll unscrew this. It's a good chance that these screws are going to be crazy long. This is the original switch that came with the house, and for whatever reason the electrician used just ridiculously long screws. Half of them are strip screws, so I'm struggling here to get this out. Oh, that one's not too bad. Alright, so we can pull this out. And again, you can see we aren't getting electrocuted here. So we have our neutral, we have our load, and then we also have our ground back here, which is just the exposed copper wire. And when we look at the inside of this switch here, we'll see a white wire back here. That's going to be our neutral back that we'll need to use to connect the smart switch. In this case, the reason why we use this white wire is we need to provide power to the switch for it to stay online and to be able to communicate back to our phone. Whereas with a regular switch itself, we aren't completing the circuit until we turn on or off that outlet. So by again connecting up our white wire back here, that's going to give us a chance to keep that outlet or that switch. Not sure why I keep calling it an outlet, but they'll keep that switch turned on for us. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, this is coming back to the actual switch itself, is again we have 4 different poles that we need to wire up here. So our top silver pole here, this one's going to be our neutral. This is going to connect back to that white wire that we saw in the box. And then we have our middle one here. This is going to be our load. So this is going to be one of the black wires going back to the panel. green tealish color here. This is going to be for the ground. That was that exposed copper wire. If I flip this over here, here we have one black pole, and this is going to be our hot. I mistakenly called that the neutral when we looked at the switch inside the gang box over there. Sometimes it's also known as your common wire, and most of the switches themselves, especially if you're looking at three-way switches, they'll be marked with a black pole as well, so there's something to keep in mind. But what I like to do to try to simplify this here is, most of the time when we're looking at just the regular outlets, and we saw that with mine, is there's only 3 wires, right? We have our hot, we have our ground, and then we have our load. So in this case, what we need to do is we needed to get a small wire here. I just pulled this out of some 12-2, and what I like to do is, rather than struggle trying to get this switch connected up in the box, I'll just go ahead and use these little clamps here, and I'm just going to screw this white wire in place. That way when I actually connect this back to our other white wires, I don't have to struggle hanging onto it here. So you can kind of see, or I don't know how well this is gonna work here on the camera here. Again, I'm just using my cell phone, but if you just loosen up the screw ever so slightly, should be able to get underneath these little plates. And you can see they got like little clamps there, so try to make sure that it's not coming out of those clamps. And then what I can do is just tighten this here, twist this here, make sure it's good and tight. We want to make sure that this can't come out. I'm just giving a little tug on this, and it's not going anywhere. So now we have this switch. We have our neutral connected to it. We can go back to the box, and we'll disconnect the old switch, and then we'll go ahead and connect this one up. Okay, back at our switch. Now, these switch have these little release tabs to actually pull these out. However, the previous ones I've done in my home, they don't release these wires, so rather than sitting here and swearing trying to get these out, I'm just going to take some wire cutters here and just cut this off. And then my ground, since that's just wrapped around this pole here, and you can see this one is colored green as well, I can just loosen this up. Take this off. All right, and then the other thing I'm going to do as well is throw my fingers in the back of this box here, and we'll grab our neutral wire out. What we can do is we can unscrew this and listen to the dog growl at something outside. What it is, nor do I care. And I forgot to bring my pliers, so we'll come back to that. Alright, sorry about that. While I was out there, grab my pliers so we can add our neutral to this here in just a second, but we'll try to strip these two wires here really quick. So again, just matching the 12 here. This off. That did not work well at all. It's like really weird. Took off a good chunk of it, but not all of it. Let's see here. What is going on? Really weird. Usually it comes off a little bit better. Let's clean this out. This one's gonna suck because it's all twisted here. So let's first orient our switch here. So our switch is going to go in like this. So let's see here, we'll curve this around. See how well I can actually twist this together here. Not too happy about this. Might pause the video here and come back and actually strip a little bit more so I can twist those together. Although that should actually be pretty decent. I'll add our wing nut back on. I'll secure this. Okay, so that looks good. Flip this over here. You can connect up our ground here. Kind of have a mess going on. Let's see if we can wrap this around like we had with our previous switch. This one last time too. Come on. Tighten this up a little bit. All right, that's good here. And you know, the big thing that I screwed up here was I did not label my hot. So what I'm going to probably do here is stop the video. I'm going to look at it. The other thing that I could do is I could take a wing nut, add it on both these here, go turn on the panel, and use my tester, my fluke tool here, and just touch whatever cable here has voltage in it. So in this case, I'm just gonna look at the video. I'm pretty sure that this one is my hot, but I'm gonna pause it and double check. Okay, so I just checked. I actually did go down there, turn on the breaker, and I held my fluke meter up here, and this one is indeed my hot. So what that means is we'll move this one over here. We're going to connect that to our black pole here. This is going to be our hot. Go ahead and we'll clamp down this. Make sure this is good and secured. We'll take our other line here. Trying to get this underneath this, I don't know what you call this little thing here that's going to clamp this down. Maybe it's just called a clamp. We'll get this in here. We'll tighten this. It's going to be a heck of a first YouTube video here. It's probably going against everything in production quality, but that's just fantastic. All right, great. So this is looking good here. So what I typically do is I make sure that we don't have any wires touching here. So these all look pretty good. They're all isolated. And these isolated on this side here. So what I'll do is run downstairs here really quick. I'm gonna flip on the breaker, and one thing that's really neat with these switches is right at the bottom here, you get kind of this nice LED locator light. And actually here I'll have someone else run down to the breaker here. When they flip it on, we should see it light up. But this will tell us if our switch worked out. All right, so we just added juice to it, and looks like it turned on just fine. So what we'll do is we'll flip off that switch, and then we'll finish wrapping up just a couple things. We'll actually put this back inside the box, inside our box here, or the gang box. I think that's a proper term. Maybe it's not, but that's what I like to call it. And then the last thing that I'll show you too is how we can actually integrate these Leviton switches into SmartThings. I use SmartThings as my Z-Wave controller. Here you can see that these are Z-Wave switches. I probably won't be able to record adding it to SmartThings since I'm using my phone to record itself, but I'll at least show you how to get it into the mode to add it to your SmartThings hub. Okay, so one thing that I like to do before I actually push this back is have a roll of electrical tape here. I like to just put that tape around the whole side here. That way if there's any cables that somehow shift, I'm not in an earthquake prone area, but maybe it'll save you from something. I don't know. Maybe this is just over the top. I don't really care. It makes me sleep better at night, so I'm going to do it. So I'm going to pull out these screws just a little bit so they'll get in the way. I'll just start out on the top here. I'm going to go right over where those poles are. So I'll try to flip this over to the side here so you can see it. Come back and we'll go right over the top of those. Again, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I'll do a second roll around. And then grab my scissors here. I'll just fold this down. I guess another reason why I do this too is I do have a couple of Z-Wave. Again, they're the Leviton brand here, not to promote them or anything, but for these switches, you can see they're pretty deep. So for boxes where there are 2 or 3 gang switches, I've had a problem where these get dangerously close to the second switch inside of that box. So just putting this electrical tape on the side, I'm hoping that prevents these switches from arcing, because the next one, maybe I can put that in another video down the road here, but you'll see that there's hardly any room between these. So these boxes become really, really, really tight here once we actually push these. But again, you can be pretty aggressive with these wires here. All I'm going to do is just push this whole switch back, and then I'll grab my screwdriver here. We'll start to screw this in here. Whenever I tighten these, I like to start out with either the top or the bottom. screw it down just enough to get it to hold in place. Then go and do the bottom. Once I start on the bottom there, I'll switch back. That way this starts to adhere, secure back to the wall a little more evenly. Keep going here. Luckily this one here is hidden in this dark closet, so I'm trying to keep this a little bit level. Still looks nice, but almost there. All right, I think that looks pretty decent. Probably would have to go grab a level. I'll unscrew this one here and see if I can push this to the side just ever so slightly. All right, perfect. And now I need to just go and grab my nice little wall plate here. So I'm gonna go and grab that really quick. For these switches, I went and I purchased some Leviton wall plates. They're nice because they don't have any screws that are showing. They can be kind of a pain in the butt to break apart here as well, maybe I won't show that, but you know, taking these or unsnapping them apart is kind of a pain, but adding them back together is a piece of cake. So I'm going to fight with getting this out of the box, and then we'll go back to our switch. Okay, so back at our switch here, trying to line this up. Again, I don't remember, just got done recording that little video, but these are Leviton plates. I found that they work, or they pair really well with these Leviton switches. Just tighten these enough to secure this plastic plate to the wall. And then this is just the top of the plate. You can see I have these little plastic clips. All I have to do is just put this up here and push this down in place, and that's it. So what we'll do is we'll go back downstairs and we'll flip on our breaker. And here we'll send someone down there to do that. And once this is on, I'll show you how we get this into the pairing mode. Great, so the switch is on. So all we do is we just push and hold this top button here for about 7 seconds. And this should turn an amber color. Yep. Then we just press this once. And now we can actually go ahead and inside of SmartThings, when I go and I add the switch, I would see that as a discoverable device. So that's all that it takes to install one of these switches. Again, this is pretty easy because this is just a single switch to turn on and off something. When we look at 3- and 4-way switches, then it starts to get a little more complex. But that's all that's to it. Feel free to leave some comments if you have any questions, and yeah, good luck.